There was shocking news out of Haiti early Wednesday morning as it emerged that the country's president had been assassinated. Here's what you need to know. Jovenel Moise, Haiti's president, was assassinated in an attack at his home around 1 a.m. on Wednesday, according to CNN. The gunmen were stopped at a police checkpoint at the bottom of the hill the president lived on, but they were allowed through on the instructions of the Office of the Chief of Haiti's National Police, having falsely claimed to be U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration agents, Haiti expert Kevin Pina told I-24 The gunmen arrived in a convoy made up of 5 cars and were heard telling those inside the premises to put weapons down and, again, that they were from the DEA, according to footage cited by CBS News. President Moise was killed inside his home while his wife, Martine, was badly injured. The New York Times reports she is now receiving treatment in a hospital in Florida. Haiti security forces have since killed 4 and detained 2 of a group of mercenaries, according to Leon Charles, chief of Haiti's National Police, cited by the Miami Herald. In an interview with the New York Times, the country's interim prime minister, Claude Joseph, said that he was the one running the country at the moment. Hours after the assassination, Joseph declared martial law, and speculation has now begun about the identities of the assassins. In a news briefing reported on by the New York Times, Haiti's ambassador to the United States said Wednesday that the murder had been carried out by well-trained professionals, killers, commandos. Additionally, interim Prime Minister Joseph told reporters some of the gunmen were speaking Spanish. However, after telling I-24 News that the chief of police had questions to answer regarding the decision to allow the gunmen access to the hill on which President Moise lived, Haiti expert Kevin Pina speculated about the possibility of a coup. On Twitter, he wrote, "Not one single police officer guarding the residence had a scratch. What does that tell you?" More explicitly, he added, now being told heavily armed convoy carrying president's killers falsely identified itself as DEA at checkpoint at base of La Boule. Source in police says when they radioed for confirmation, they were told by PNH Chief Leon Charles' office to let them through to president's home. Tracking down a second source in Haiti, and if true, this is a coup. Pina did not speculate on those responsible for any possible coup, but Haiti's political situation has been tumultuous in recent years. President Moise had been in power since February of 2017 and had recently seen demonstrations against him after trying to push through constitutional changes. Haiti's opposition had said the president's 5-year term should have ended on February 7, 2021, 5 years after his predecessor stepped down. However, a delay to elections after his predecessor left office saw President Moise insist he had 1 more year in power, as he did not take office until February 7, 2017. On top of this, parliamentary elections should have been held in October of 2019, but were delayed by various disputes, meaning President Moise had been ruling by decree. On the day the opposition wanted him to leave office this February, the president said an assassination attempt had been prevented. Where the country goes now after this successful assassination attempt is unclear. Speaking to The Guardian, Robert Fatton, a Haitian politics professor from the University of Virginia, said, according to the Haitian constitution, the interim president should be the Chief Justice, but the Chief Justice died of COVID last month, so there is no one obviously in charge. The identity of Haiti's prime minister is also unclear. President Moise had been about to appoint a new prime minister on Wednesday after dismissing Claude Joseph in order to appoint neurosurgeon Ariel Henry to the post, according to the Miami Herald. Amid opposition party discontent with the appointment, President Moise had said in a tweet that Henry's task was to form an open government capable of solving the glaring problem of insecurity and support the Provisional Electoral Council for the realization of general elections and the referendum. However, according to the Miami Herald, many in opposition were unhappy about the appointment because of a lack of formal consultation. In the end, it was the previous Prime Minister Joseph who announced Moise's killing on Wednesday morning. Looking ahead, Fatton told The Guardian he could not rule out Haiti, which was subject to a controversial UN stabilization mission between 2004 and 2017, facing another intervention if the country's security situation became unstable after the president's assassination. And of course, Haiti is not the only country experiencing political instability right now. The Ethiopian central government has retreated from the country's war-torn Tigray region and unilaterally declared a ceasefire between itself and rebels in the area. Here's what you need to know. Ethiopia's government has declared a ceasefire in the war-torn region of Tigray after rebel fighters retook the regional capital, Mekelle, according to state media cited by RFI. However, months of fighting have already caused a man-made hunger emergency, according to a UN report issued in June. Around 353,000 people, or 4% of the analyzed population of Tigray and neighboring parts of Amhara and Afar, are classified as facing a food catastrophe. 23% are classified as facing a food emergency, and 34% are classified as facing a food crisis. Food production has been disrupted massively by fighting, damage to infrastructure, and large-scale displacement of people, according to Vox. The BBC reports that Eritrean and Ethiopian government forces have been accused of widespread pillage, burning crops, destroying health facilities, and preventing farmers from plowing their land. These problems have been exacerbated by Eritrean groups coordinating with Ethiopian forces to cut off critical aid supply routes, according to CNN. U.S. officials estimate up to 1.25 million people live in areas humanitarian workers cannot reach. The BBC reports that in some remote villages, farmers have been forced to take out their oxen at midnight and plow fields in darkness, using scouts to warn them of nearby soldiers. UN Emergency Relief Coordinator Mark Lowcock told Reuters that Eritrean forces in particular were trying to deal with the Tigrayan population by starving them. Regardless of any ceasefire, there are dire predictions about the future food situation in the region, which was already precarious due to the effects of COVID-19 and a desert locust infestation last year. We're at the stage where it's unavoidable that thousands, probably tens of thousands of children will die of starvation in the next month, the executive director of the World Peace Foundation at Tufts University told Vox. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations struck an equally devastating note, speaking before the ceasefire declaration. "We are witnessing a humanitarian nightmare," she said. "This is not the kind of disaster that can be reversed." It is also likely that fighting will not stop despite the ceasefire declaration. A statement released by the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the political party behind the rebel Tigray fighters, says that they will continue to fight. The government of Tigray calls upon our people and army of Tigray to intensify their struggle until our enemies completely leave Tigray, it said. The government and army of Tigray will carry out all the tasks necessary to ensure the survival and security of our people. The conflict began November 4, 2020, when Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed ordered a military offensive against regional forces in Tigray, which he said was in response to an attack on a military base housing government troops there. That escalation came after months of arguments between Prime Minister Abiy's government and leaders of Tigray's dominant political party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front. The People's Liberation Front had previously led a coalition government in the country for almost 3 decades before losing power to Prime Minister Abiy in 2018 after anti-government protests. The issue at the heart of the conflict now is that Tigray's leaders see reforms by Prime Minister Abiy as attempts to centralize power. In September, Tigray held its own regional election in defiance of the central government, which had controversially postponed national elections because of coronavirus. In October, the central government suspended funding for Tigray. Tigray's regional administration described this as a declaration of war. 2 ships of the Iranian Navy have rounded the southern tip of Africa, becoming the first Iranian Navy ships to ever enter the Atlantic Ocean. This comes just days after Iran's largest Navy ship caught fire and sank. It appears that the 2 Iranian ships are heading for Venezuela, which would have significant geopolitical ramifications. Here are the details. The Drive reports that 2 ships of the Iranian Navy have reportedly rounded South Africa's Cape of Good Hope and appear to be heading into the Atlantic Ocean. The 2 ships are the frigate Sahand and the Makran, a converted tanker that looks like it's designed to be a mobile base. This latest news comes 2 days after the Karg, one of Iran's largest and most important naval ships, sank after suffering a major fire, the causes of which remain unclear. This would be the first time Iranian naval vessels have operated in the Atlantic, and previous reports have indicated that their final destination is in Venezuela, where they might offload a shipment of weapons. While it is still unclear if the ships are carrying any weapons, satellite imagery suggests the Makran is carrying a number of small, fast-attack boats that Iran has used to harass U.S. naval ships in the Persian Gulf. If Iranian Navy vessels gain the ability to operate in the Atlantic, analysts say it would be a significant step forward for Iran, which has tried and failed to do so in the past. The Pentagon says the delivery of Iranian weapons to Venezuela would be a provocative act and a threat to America's partners in the Western Hemisphere. The Pentagon said, We would reserve the right to take appropriate measures in concert with our partners to deter the delivery or transit of such weapons.
For more news animations and explainers, hit the subscribe and bell button to join the TomoNews family. Thanks for watching.